Sagittarius, this week you will hurt, not because you're weak, but because a truth is ready to break open like the final door of a silent prison. A death is approaching, but not one of the body. It's the death of something you've been clinging to for far too long. Maybe it's a person, a belief, a relationship that never dared to call itself by its true name. And the most painful part is, it will be the one to reveal itself. Stay until the end. Because what hurts you this time is also what will finally unchain your soul. A death is drawing near, Sagittarius. Not one that stops the body from breathing, but a quiet death, where a part of your soul knows it's time to leave. To close the chapter. To bury something for good. I know, we usually meet death with fear, but some deaths are the deepest beginnings, not endings, but the final limit of a role you've outgrown. And if you're hearing this now, there's a good chance you are that soul standing before a door. A door open not by anyone else's hand, but by your own heart, after too many cuts, after too many nights of endurance no one saw. I don't know how tired you are, but I can feel that you've been holding it in for too long. You've been the one who heals others, the one who steps back, who swallows tears to keep the peace for everyone else. But who holds the peace for you? You were strong, so strong no one ever thought you needed to be held. And then, there came a moment when strength became your chain. You began living like a soul already dead, moving through days with no inner light. Still working, still loving, still hoping, but deep down, you've been bleeding and no one saw it. Sagittarius, you are a soul born under the blessing of Jupiter, planet of expansion, faith, higher wisdom, and divine mission. You are the seeker, the one who fires arrows into the sky and asks, who am I in this vast universe? But sometimes, along the way, you lose sight of yourself. You give love to someone who never knew how to hold it. You place your trust where it was never safe. You become the flame that warms others, only to be burned yourself, little by little. This week, the universe doesn't want you to hurt, but it also cannot let you keep pretending that you're okay. So it sends a situation, a person, a shock, a sentence, to wake you up. To make you look at yourself, not through the eyes of blame, but through the lens of truth. You deserve more than this. And maybe it's time for something to die. Maybe it's the relationship you've held on to for too long. Maybe it's the false belief that if you're good enough, someone will stay. Or maybe it's the part of you that keeps trying to become someone else, just to be loved. I once witnessed someone sitting quietly by a bedside, holding the hand of their departed mother, and whispering, "I'm sorry for living a life that wasn't truly mine." That was a real death. Not of someone else, but of every expectation they had once tried so hard to carry. You may not be sitting beside someone who has passed, but maybe you are sitting beside yourself and feeling deep down that you can't keep living the same way, not even for one more day. There's a quote I always remember. Sometimes the only way to heal is to let the part of you that hurts the most finally die. And that death is a blessing, a grace, the final gift your soul gives you when you are brave enough to stop running. Now imagine, you're standing in a forest. In front of you is a scorched, blackened field, a place where all the trees and grasses have burned to the ground. It's barren, painful to look at, but what you don't know is that this very soil will become the cradle of new life, and that is you, Sagittarius. The death happening inside you this week is the soil being reborn. It is an invitation back to your truest freedom, one no longer shackled by guilt or fear of being left behind. Ask yourself gently, what inside me is screaming to be buried? Who am I still holding on to, just so I don't have to face the emptiness inside myself? And if you dare to answer, you will come to see something sacred. You are not the one losing. You are the one being reborn. If your heart is trembling because you know these words are speaking directly to you, don't worry. There is no death that happens in the light that does not carry a gift from the dark. And when that gift comes, it won't arrive with applause. It will come in stillness. A strange silence between the ruins, where suddenly you feel, I am enough. I have always been enough. Leave a comment below. I allow the old to die so I can finally live as my true self. Because when you write that, you are performing a small ceremony. No candles needed, no altar, just a soul, honest enough to say what it has never dared to admit. We don't grow by keeping everything intact. We grow by letting go of what no longer fits and letting it fall apart. And if you've been waiting for a sign, a witness, a reminder from the universe, then this is it. You are allowed to end things. You are allowed to be tired. You are allowed to begin again. From the ashes, from the death no one sees, you will come back to life in a way you never have before. There is someone who will hurt you this week. And no, not because you deserve it, not because you are weak, but because the universe knows that without this wound, you would keep believing in an illusion, living inside a connection that is no longer real, loving a shadow that no longer exists in the light. I don't know who that person is in your life. A blood relative? A friend you once called a soulmate? A lover you believed you would walk this life with? Whoever they are, the wound they leave on you this week will be unlike anything you've felt before. Because it won't come from open betrayal. It will come from silence, from a turning away with no explanation, from a careless remark, from the moment you realize they knew your pain and still chose to hurt you anyway, without even blinking. You may want to scream, "Why me? What did I do wrong? How could someone I love be so heartless?" But then, in the quietest hour of the night, a soft truth will rise within you. The answer is not about them. The answer is about you. About the part of you that forgot it deserved protection. About the part of you that was still just a child, longing to be held. Sagittarius, you were not born to be a landing strip for other people's pain. You are not the only one meant to carry the ancestral wounds, or to absorb the coldness of those who've never healed. You are the one who carries the arrow of truth. The fire no one can extinguish. But just because you carry fire doesn't mean you have to burn yourself every time someone else feels cold. So if someone close to you has hurt you deeply this week, I want you to sit down. Not to analyze who was right or wrong, but to ask, how have I let my soul be wounded by constantly compromising with what isn't real? This wound is the universe's clearest message. It's time. Time to look around and ask, who is truly here for me, and who is only here for what they get? You've forgiven too much, stayed silent for too long, believed that if you just stayed kind, stayed sincere, they would eventually see you, love you in the right way. But oh, Sagittarius, not everyone knows how to love you right, and not everyone deserves to be loved by the light you carry. The one who hurts you this week is not your enemy. They are the broken mirror sent by the universe. A mirror not to reflect their face, but to show you the part of yourself still waiting to be healed. The part you abandoned while chasing recognition. There's an image that keeps coming to my mind when I think of you this week. You're standing in the middle of a desert, holding a single flower. You believe it's real. You've watered it, prayed over it, stayed up countless nights waiting for it to bloom. But one day, you reach out and touch it, and realize it's only a fake flower. It's not because you're foolish. It's because you were so desperate to be loved that you chose to believe in something that wasn't true. And the greatest pain wasn't that the flower never bloomed. It was the moment you had to face the truth. I caused my own pain by holding on too tightly to the wrong thing for far too long. I want you to know this. There's nothing wrong with loving someone with your whole heart. There's nothing shameful about hoping or waiting or swallowing loneliness just to preserve the love you held inside. The only thing that needs to change is the way you love yourself. You can forgive others, but don't abandon yourself again. You can step away from someone, but don't turn your back on the part of your soul that's screaming, I want to live truthfully. I don't want to pretend anymore. Astrology calls this a time of spiritual rebirth, a wound that is no longer just emotional, but a gateway for the soul to step into another dimension of truth. And that is exactly what you're going through. This is not a simple breakup. This is not a misunderstanding. This is a rite of passage, a painful one, but sacred nonetheless. You might be crying. You might feel foolish, but I want you to know, you are not alone. You are not to blame. You are not weak. You are simply learning how to love yourself again, but this time more fiercely, more gently, and without asking for permission. If you've ever been hurt because you loved someone too much, if you once believed your pain was the price you had to pay for someone to stay, leave a comment. I choose myself. This time, and always. Because when you choose yourself, every wound begins to turn into light. And if this part speaks to your soul, hit the like button so I know you're there. You don't have to say a word. Your heart's light is already whispering to me. And finally, I just want to say this. The one who hurt you is not your enemy. They are simply the messenger, sent to guide you back to yourself. And you don't need anyone's understanding anymore. You only need to look in the mirror, place your hand on your heart and say, I'm here. I won't abandon you again. Are you ready to keep going? Because up next, I'm going to tell you about the strange and sacred thing happening inside your soul right now. Something that will change the way you look at every wound as a divine sign. Sagittarius, you think this only started this week, that the person suddenly changed, that this pain hit out of nowhere. But no, the universe has seen this coming for a long time. Since the first time you had that strange dream you couldn't explain, since you started feeling disconnected even with them right beside you, since the laughter stopped reaching your heart and your eyes no longer held faith when they looked at them, only quiet sorrow. The crack didn't appear today. It's been there for a while. You just chose not to look. You patched it with kindness, with patience, with excuses made on their behalf. You loved them so much. You explained away even your own pain. And I don't blame you, because I've been you. I used to believe that if I were just good enough, everything would change. I thought if I endured a little longer, they would understand. I once prayed and begged the universe to let them stay, even though deep down I knew they were no longer meant to walk beside me. But the universe doesn't keep what you want. It keeps what you need. And the death you've just gone through was no accident. It was a sacred arrangement. In astrology, Sagittarius is the 9th sign, the one who sees far, the one who travels beyond all limits, the one who seeks truth behind the veil. But how can you keep flying toward the light when someone keeps tying a rope to your ankles and calling it love? The universe sees what you haven't dared to see. The universe hears what you haven't spoken aloud. It hears your silent cries in the night, the laughter you fake just to get through a conversation, the hollow turn of your back when no one's looking. It sees the moment you realize you've become nothing more than a shadow beside the one who once promised to never let go. And so, the universe quietly begins the work of liberation. The universe doesn't need you to understand it right away. It doesn't need you to accept this death in the first breath. It only needs you to stay with yourself long enough to realize that this is not the end. It is a resurrection that has been written into your timeline for a very long time. You've been exhausted, but couldn't walk away. You felt the disconnect, but still held on. You've sensed something wasn't right, but said nothing. Because you loved, because you were loyal, because you didn't want to hurt anyone. But in doing so, you forgot this. Every time you sacrificed what you knew was true, you were hurting your own soul. The universe saw it. And even when you said nothing, it moved. It let the truth fall out. It let someone hurt you, but not with a soft wound this time. It sent a clean cut, deep, unignorable. You might cry, you might rage, you might ask why the universe left you with such a naked, unforgiving truth. But then, a few days, a few weeks later, you'll begin to understand. This is the freedom you once prayed for on the loneliest nights. Sagittarius, you've come so far on the path of loving others. Now is the time to come back and learn how to love yourself again. And this death, this heartbreak, this collapse, it's the key. The key to the door you've been standing in front of for so long but never dared to walk through. The door that leads back to you. The you who no longer pretends to be strong. The you who no longer endures just to hold on to what's already broken. The you who finally says, I'm not here to be a backdrop for someone else's pain. I'm here to live my truth. Did you know? Every soul who comes to Earth is guided, not through voices, but through feeling. Through the repetition of wounds. Through the moments when you whisper, I'm fine, but your heart can't take it anymore. This wound is a marker, a chapter in the sacred journal of your soul. And if you are reading these words, if they're making your eyes well up, that is not an accident. You've arrived at the right place, at the right time. And the death you just went through was the baptism for the truest part of you to come back to life. Leave a comment below. I'm ready to walk through the door the universe has made just for me. Because what you say today might be the lifeline someone else needed to see. And if this moment touched you, don't forget to hit the like button, not just for the algorithm, but as an energetic signal from one awakened soul to another. The universe planned this death long ago, but it was you who chose to come back to life. And next, I'll tell you what happens after this death. A message from a higher soul that I believe you were meant to hear. Sagittarius, after every death there is always a rebirth. But between death and rebirth, there is a gap. That gap has a name, the cost, and no one escapes it. You'll feel lost, you'll feel hollow, like someone pulled your soul out of your body and left behind a shell that still breathes but no longer wants to exist. You'll ask, I chose freedom, but why do I feel lonelier than I did when I was trapped? If only I had kept pretending, maybe it wouldn't hurt this much. I've been there, and I need to tell you the truth. Freedom is not the light that rushes in the moment you step out of the darkness. Freedom is a wild, barren land, and you are the first one to step onto it. You'll have to relearn how to live. You'll have to befriend the silence. You'll have to fall asleep without a goodnight message. You'll have to eat meals alone, with no one asking, how was your day? You'll have to get used to not having a hand to hold when your body trembles from fear. And that is the cost. Some people pay that cost with silent tears every night. Some pay with a permanent mistrust of future relationships. Some pay by losing their entire family, just because they dared to speak a truth no one else would face. I knew a woman. She left her unfaithful husband after 12 years of marriage. Her friends only asked, he's the one who cheated, but why would you break up the family? No one asked if she'd ever truly been happy during those 12 years. No one asked if she cried herself to sleep in silence. The price she paid was isolation, being misunderstood, watching her children look at her with blame before they were old enough to understand. But you know what? 5 years later, she opened a small tea shop, taught meditation, and lived surrounded by nature. And in her eyes was a kind of light that not every 50-year-old gets to carry, the light of a soul that had once died and came back to life through the truth. Another story was a man. He left a high-paying but toxic job, a place where every day he had to wear a mask just to survive. They called him crazy. They labeled him a quitter. But he knew if he stayed, his soul would die a little more each day. The cost? Uncertainty. Several months scraping by on what little savings he had. Nights spent alone, wondering, did I make the wrong choice? But from that confusion, he began to write. He wrote about pain, about what no one dared say in those office walls, about waking up to the truth. And today, he's become a healer for those walking the same path he once braved alone. So if you're feeling lost right now, if the pain you're carrying feels too heavy for the freedom you thought you'd earned, know this: you're not alone in that feeling. Because the cost of living your truth is always something that hurts. But pain is the first step to healing. Pain is the proof that you're no longer numb. Pain is the signal that your soul has finally begun to return. Sagittarius, you are the sign of the journey. But not every journey is golden, sunlit, and filled with laughter. Some journeys lead you through the desert. Some journeys require you to lose something, just so you can find what matters most, the purest version of who you are. You may no longer have that person, that job, that circle of friends, that old dream you once clung to. But you still have one thing: you, and you are no longer a prisoner of illusion. That is the gift the universe hid inside your pain. If today you're still sitting in the rubble, I want you to know, you don't have to rebuild right away. You don't have to rush into being some stronger version of yourself. Allow yourself to rest. Let the tears fall. Hold the emptiness like an old friend who's come to visit. Because sometimes, resurrection is just this: waking up each morning, placing your hand on your chest, and whispering, I'm still here, and I'm learning to love myself again. If you've ever paid the price for freedom, leave a comment. I accept the cost, because I choose myself. Don't be afraid to let others see your pain, because you never know how many are waiting for someone to speak it first. And if this touched you, hit like. Not just to support the video, but as a signal to the universe, I am alive, and I choose to live truthfully. You've come a long way, Sagittarius. Sagittarius, you've traveled through an entire cycle of death, rebirth, and resurrection, all within a single week. You died a death that no one saw, no grave, no tears, no one standing by in mourning. But you knew something inside you broke, left, and could never return the way it was. And in that moment, you came back to life. Living no longer meant enduring, no longer meant forced smiles, no longer meant unconscious self-sacrifice. Living became presence, the breath of someone who now knows who they are, who knows what no longer fits and has the courage to finally let it go. So if today you're still wiping your tears, if your heart is still uneasy, if tonight you'll once again have to hold yourself to sleep, I want you to remember one thing. You are not falling apart. You are shedding. You are not losing. You are returning. Returning all the roles, conditions, and chains that were never yours to carry in the first place. I don't need to know who hurt you or what you've lost. I only know this. You were brave enough to let go. And that is something not everyone dares to do. Do you know something? We don't grow from being loved the right way. We grow when we're wounded by the very ones we believed would never hurt us. We don't awaken in times of peace. We awaken in the middle of chaos. When truth rips off its disguise. When everything we clung to suddenly feels foreign and we're forced to choose. Keep pretending to live or start living for real, even if it costs us everything. And you, Sagittarius, you chose the second. You chose a beginning. You chose to step out of the fire that once warmed you, but now only burns you. You chose to walk away from what made you small. You chose to believe that you deserve a life no longer shackled by pain. And that is resurrection. Starting today, you don't have to run anymore. You don't have to keep pleasing others to be loved. You don't have to live the perfect script someone else wrote for you. You have the right to rewrite everything. From the beginning. From your name, from your limits, from how you choose to love, from the way you look into the mirror and smile because the person looking back is no longer holding it all in. If you've made it this far, if your heart just skipped a beat, as though the universe touched it for a moment, leave a comment. I accept the ending and I choose the beginning. Because someone else out there needs to see that. They're reading and they need someone to go first to prove that healing is real, even if it hurts. And if this journey has touched you, please hit like so the energy of this message can continue to ripple outward. Not just to let me know you're here, but so you yourself can mark this moment as the one where you chose to live aligned with your soul. The death you just walked through was never a loss. It was an opening, a path that no one else can walk for you, a hill that no one else can carry you up. But you are climbing, and I see it, the light that's waiting at the top. You don't need to know all the next steps. Just hold on to one truth. Your soul is no longer imprisoned, and that alone is enough to begin again.